Okay folks, so what is in bloom in June? And unfortunately folks, I haven't been able to film as much as I would like because of the rainy season. We've been getting beat up with some pretty heavy rain, so I just haven't been able to get out here in my garden. So unfortunately we lost out on some blooms that I will not be able to capture. So with that in mind, there were so many more blooms, but I will still capture what we have right now. And right here folks, we have the very beautiful Tania and Cattleya basket. And although this is considered a community basket because indeed it has two separate different plants within the same basket, I reassure you that there will be no harm caused to this Cattleya right here because the Tanias actually do not receive any type of nutrients from the roots itself. It actually uses those roots simply to attach itself on vegetation and also trees, but it actually receives all of its nutrients in its leaves right here. So again, no harm caused to this beautiful Cattleya. And I will have to admit, this very beautiful polka dot and spotted Cattleya right here is quite the flirtatious gal, demanding all of the attention within my garden. For as you can see, as flamboyant and bold as she is, with her very light pink pastel backdrop on her petals and her sepals, but if you also take a look at that deep magenta spotting all throughout the blossom. How gorgeous. And it does remind me of magenta paint that has been simply splashed onto her beautiful petals. And as you can also see right here in her lip, you can see that beautiful deep magenta color as well. And in the throat area, you are noticing that nice creamy yellow, also a nice pastel yellow. Indeed, quite a beautiful gal, this cheetah pointer right here. And I am so very proud and very amused at how beautiful her blossoms are. Next up on our list is this Rinko Vanda Thailand crossed with a Vanda tessellata crossed with a Vanda Mimi Palmer. And here she is folks. As you can see, she is quite a teeny weeny gal, and in comparison to my hand, that is about the size of her body and also her root system. So she is not that big at all, but you know what? She's big enough to bloom these very showy flowers. And you may just remember these beautiful, gorgeous blooms from about 2 months ago where she was in bloom. And definitely here she is again, parading her flamboyant, very bold blooms. As you can see, a very heavy tessellated pattern, very distinctive and defined. And you're seeing that the coloration of that tessellation is a very deep magenta color. And if you take a look at the backdrop of the petals, you are actually seeing a greenish color. So definitely a wonderful and beautiful color combination on here. And she is also fragrant as well. Definitely such a beautiful and very bold tessellated gal. And this little two-bulbed Bulbophyllum right here, I actually purchased not too long ago. She was actually featured in my Jeopardy haul. And surprise, surprise, folks, can you believe she did come in to spike? That's right, you see it, that big, thick, fleshy thing right there. That is a spike. And this Bulbophyllum right here has quite a peculiar nickname, just about as peculiar as its spike. And this is actually called a lizard head. And if we take a closer look at the tiny, tiny blossoms, let's see how close we can get on this one. Again, she has a numerous amount of very, very tiny blossoms. And if you take a close look, they actually look like they're raising their little tiny striated lizard heads with their mouths wide open. Do you see that? All of those tiny lizard heads with their mouths wide open, looking like they're so very hungry. Feed me, Seymour. And indeed, you cannot deny that this is quite an awkward looking spike with some very awkward and peculiar looking blooms. But one thing for sure, folks, you cannot deny this is quite an attention getter for sure. And do you guys remember the very unfortunate mishap that this Mimi Palmer had gone through? She indeed became invaded by the thrips, as you can see within her foliage, showing off the very permanent and very nasty scars that the thrips insect has left as a permanent reminder of the devastation. But thank goodness that this Mimi Palmer is quite resilient, and those devastating scars that were left on her leaves did not affect her future blooms. As you can see, they are absolutely flawless. And taking a closer look at these very beautiful tessellated blossoms right here, you are seeing that nice green in the backdrop. And you are also seeing that purple in the tessellation. So that nice color combination of that green and purple is coming through in these blossoms. Very waxy and also very fragrant. Indeed, quite a beauty right here. This Mimi Palmer. Such a stunner. And also another one in bloom is a Phalaenopsis tetrespis Classic Moonbeam crossed with a Cornose Cervi Vanda Chatelaide Orchid Classic Ruby. Now that is a mouthful if I do say so myself. And here she is. As you can see, she is a very healthy Phalaenopsis with multiple spikes right there. I counted 5. And on the spikes you're noticing some of them have blooms and also some buds coming right along. Also right here as well, a bloom. And then you're also seeing those buds. So she's ready to continue the blooming party. And up here as well, you're noticing some more spikes with some buds. And if we take a closer view of this beautiful, very wild gal, you are seeing in her backdrop somewhat of a yellowish greenish color. Also, you're seeing a white intermingled in there as well. Now, with the crazy wild patterns right here emulating tiger stripes, that is a very brown maroonish color and very distinctive. Definitely a wild gal ready to growl. Grrr. Okay, not so much. And I know, folks, this is going to be very hard to believe, but yes, indeed, this Vanda too was in bloom about 2 months ago, and she is in bloom yet again. This is the Denisoniana crossed with the Dearei. And I do love these uniquely formed blossoms right here. Not only are they beautifully colored with that yellow and a nice blending of a green tinge at the very edges of her petals, as you can see right here. Definitely very pretty. If we take a close look at those petals, you're also going to see some spottings in there as well. Very light in tinge or in color, but you can see them. And definitely, again, I love the curvature of the petals. If we turn her over, we're going to see just how curved they get. Look, they come together in a circular shape. Definitely very nice way in the way they form their blossoms. And also I want to mention that these are also very, very fragrant as well. So definitely a lot of bang for my buck right here on these gorgeous, very exotic looking flowers. And do you guys remember my Vanda terete that had got burned really badly last year? Well, I have to tell you that I'm very happy to announce that this is her now. And if we take a closer look at these very beautiful blooms right here, you are seeing that they are very nice sized, about 3.5 inches on each bloom. Also, one of the spectacular features is the color combination, because you are going to see a range of colors. As you can see on her petals and her sepals, you are noticing that light, very lavender pinkish color. But if you go down to the bottom petals right here, you are seeing that nice pristine white in there as well. And going on to her skirt, you are seeing that light lavender magenta color. Then it gets a little bit deeper magenta right here, blending into quite a spectacular red throughout. And deep within the throat, you are seeing that nice yellow. Indeed, a quite spectacular rainbow of combination of colors right here. Spectacular and very beautiful. And I have to tell you, I love the frill, the bells, and the whistle on this gal. Very classical beauty, and I have to say she is quite prim and proper, reminding me of a very beautiful and elegant princess. And here we have a very pristine white blooming Vanda. And I don't know, do you guys remember her? Because she was actually in bloom about 2 months ago. And yes, she is in bloom yet again. And I have to say, I do believe it is attributed to my fertilizer bags that I have been currently using, because I am getting so many blooms and they're either blooming once every month or even back to back. Very beautiful, unidentified, fabulous orchid. So she is a UFO, but indeed I do treasure her. As you can see, she is very white at the top, but if we take a very close look at the bottom, you are noticing quite a tinge of green in there as well. Definitely quite a beauty. And if we look way beyond these chaotic roots right here, we will find that way down deep in the Amazon jungle, there are yet some more blooms that are hidden. But let's get a better view of the 4 spikes that this Aerides odorata has produced for us. Indeed, quite an abundance of blooms, very spectacular and unique looking, and of course, let's not forget, also very, very fragrant. But if we get a closer look at its blooms, you will see exactly how unique in its formation it is. As you can see, they have miniature little petals and sepals, a very nice white and also that light magenta. And appearing right here, if you look, that hook shape might seem to be the actual lip or throat area, but it is not. Let's take an even closer look. Because if we take a hold of that hook shape, we will actually see the pollen cap. And there you go. That's where the inner throat area is, right there. Do you see it? So in actual reality, that hook is the spur of the blossom. So indeed, these very miniature, waxy, fragrant, and uniquely shaped blooms are quite amusing to look at. And do you guys remember my Grammatophyllum? Well, let's see what's going on now. And here she is, folks. Here she is on her 3rd spike right here that is now in bloom. And indeed, this time she held on to her blooms with, I would say, almost 80 blooms. I actually lost count, but as you can see, quite an abundant amount. A very beautiful wild camouflage pattern and also colored blooms. Quite leopard splotches and patterns and spots right there, and quite beautiful. Indeed, the Grammatophyllums are just quite spectacular in the amount of blooms that they can give off. Also the length of their spikes, which on average is about 3 to 5 feet long. And then the fact that they can continue to give off spikes are really quite amazing as well. And of course, the wild patterns just drive me absolutely bazonkers, and I can be entertained for hours. And this right here is my very wonderful Aridis halutiana in bloom. Now, it is unfortunate that I didn't get to showcase her at her prime, where her blooms were very, very beautiful and just really beginning to show its beauty in all of its glory. Unfortunately, there are so many insects that are attracted. As you can see, let's try to get a closer look. There's a bumblebee right there. And they are just so attracted to these blooms that, as you can see, majority of them do not even have their pollen any longer. So that means that these blooms are beginning to fade, and rather quickly at that. But indeed, this has bloomed in June. and so very beautiful and very, very fragrant with that very lemony floral scent. Indeed delicious in my garden, and the fragrance just really covers the entire extent of my garden. That's how strong this Halutiana is. And the next Vanda coming up is the most prolific bloomer in my garden. Why? Because she is always in bloom. If you guys remember, this Vanda right here has been featured in each and every one of my videos because yes, this year, every month, she's been in bloom. This was her April bloom. Then May, she bloomed 2 spikes, and here she is in June, blooming yet again. And I also have to tell you that she is quite the busy bee in her keiki production as well. Indeed, I just don't know how she has so much energy to do it, but I am so grateful, and trust me, I am not complaining. And the very next blooming orchid is a Phalaenopsis KS Happy Eagle crossed with a Xing Min Tyrannosaurus. Now this Phalaenopsis is actually one of my newer acquisitions, but she continues to bloom in June. And indeed, I wanted to showcase her because she is so worthy of the attention. Oh my goodness, look at those crazy stripings within. Indeed, quite a beautiful and very fragrant Phalaenopsis right here. Indeed, look at all those squiggly lines just giving off a bold pattern. And as you can see on the outer edges of the petals and the sepals is that greenish lime green. Indeed, what a beautiful color combination right here. Quite an attention getter and such a beautiful, beautiful gal. And coming up next is this Phalaenopsis Dragon Tree Eagle crossed with a Aerides Bear King. And this one, folks, I really do have to admit, really floats my orchid boat because her coloration is just so bright and so cheerful. She can chase away any gloomy, rainy weather. And what I love most, of course, is her wild and bold kaleidoscope type of pattern in the center. And, of course, her beautiful color combination just really pops and makes her stand out. As you can see on the outer skirts of her petals, she is a greenish and yellowish color, but if we take a look in that center, that kaleidoscope pattern really emits that dark, rich magenta color. Indeed, quite spectacular, tropically delicious, and what I consider a great piece of eye candy. So yummy and also so very fragrant. And indeed, I have saved the absolute best for last. Proud to present to you my black Vanda right here. Now, no, she is not the Karina mode, so you guys don't fret. I didn't get one before you guys, okay? This is actually the Kultana Black fragrance, which now has become my most favorite Vanda within my entire Vanda kingdom. Indeed, she reigns supreme, quite a black beauty. And of course, there is no black Vanda. This is actually a very deep, deep purple, very easy to mistake as black, as you can see, but indeed quite the gorgeous gal. And again, she reigns supreme, #1 on top, my most favorite Vanda right here, and I'm sure you guys can see why. Quite the black beauty. And alas, as you can see, the sun is beginning to quickly fade, so that is going to bring us at our end, but that's okay because I did cover the vast majority of the major things that I have in bloom, but of course I have so much more coming, so stay tuned for July's blooms. What an exciting adventure indeed. And you guys, please be sure to let me know exactly which orchids you like the best, and also what orchids are in bloom in your room. room, or your grow space, or your garden, or your greenhouse. You know what I mean. Let me know what's blooming in your corner of the world. And if you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos, please be sure to subscribe and join me on Facebook at My Orchid Adventures. And if you want to write or send me something, you can do so at the address like right there. That's it, folks. Love you all. Mwah!